Thank you all for joining in and folks who will be watching the webinar later. So without any further ado, let's get started. So it's an important topic that today we are going to discuss about, and very hands-on and niche topic that we are going to talk about. That's how can you elevate security in your organization through practical vulnerability and patch management tips. Just a little brief about me. So I'm Ashwani. I'm founder and CEO of SecOps Solution. SecOps is a agentless patch management and vulnerability management platform that helps organizations identify security vulnerabilities in their infrastructure, laptops, servers, helps them prioritize based on the business criticality, the exploitability nature of those vulnerabilities, and then also does the automated remediation bit. So today in this webinar, we are going to primarily cover the following topics. We're going to understand what really are, these security vulnerabilities that we are going to, that we keep on hearing. Since the advent of, LLMs and the usage has increased in last 2 years, we are seeing a very different kind of attack trends that are coming across. And what are the regulatory and compliance mandate around vulnerability and patching? What are the best practices that we have learned over time working with hundreds of customers and based on their feedbacks, and what the industry standard says for VM and patching? And lastly, we will try to address some of those problems that we are solving through our product SecOps solution. Then we'll open the round for Q&A. So recent attack trends. So one of the major shifts that has happened recently in the past is that it has just become a lot more easier to build exploitation scripts for security vulnerabilities to start exploiting them. What we are seeing is that for the newly discovered vulnerabilities, for the zero-day vulnerabilities, people are actually exploiting vulnerabilities within 2 days, within 3 days since the vulnerability has been around, and it's officially published. We are not even talking about the unpublished version of the vulnerabilities. The reason being the exploitation, the ability or the skill that was needed to build these exploitation tools has significantly decreased with the advent of LLMs, with the advent of chat GPTs. It just has become a lot more easier for the hackers, the malicious guys, to start exploiting these vulnerabilities quickly. The other trend that we are seeing is of these ransomwares, where people are trying to deploy these ransomwares who are trying to attack unpatched systems via lateral movements, meaning you have a couple of systems in the same network, and now you're trying to get a foothold to them, maybe first through a public facing server or a device, and then trying to get a further internal access to those systems. And lastly, supply chain has become a lot bigger focus. So be it, a very commonly used third-party softwares and open source libraries, they are becoming a great tool for these attackers to get into the system. We have so many examples of people either deploying malicious injections or malicious scripts, even crypto mining scripts in the open source tools. And the popular softwares that we use that are used to perform regular regular operations, but operations that end up consuming or taking a space at the core level of your solution, like file transfer, SCP, all of that are just being targeted more, because that means they get full access to the system. In fact, this is a startling data here that in 2024 alone, 40,000 new vulnerabilities were published. Now, imagine as a vulnerability manager or a patch manager, you have to now not only keep a track of all of these 40,000 new vulnerabilities that are constantly being published, that are constantly getting updated in terms of how they're getting exploited, what is their depth. You also have you have to keep a track of what is happening inside your organization. How many of your devices are impacted by any of these one or all of these vulnerabilities? How are you going to make sure they are constantly patched? So this now is just becoming increasingly a bigger problem. Some of the recent exploits that we have seen with regards to vulnerabilities, just wanted to highlight a few of them here. One of them is MoveIt. So Move It is a very popular, file transfer application. And in 2023 alone, a sequence of SQL injection flaws were found in the Move It software, and this led to a large-scale data breach across many organizations. FortiGate, a very popular network security tool. Now here's the thing, right? The tools that claim to provide security are also vulnerable to these flaws and to these attacks. FortiGate SSL had a vulnerability, and through this, attackers could gain remote code execution capabilities to the target system. And FortiGate VPNs are put at the very edge of any organization. So this means that this had the capability of having complete access to the entire organization, which there is no limit to how deeply can an organization get breached because of these kind of vulnerabilities. Microsoft is, no new customer here. The amount of vulnerabilities that Microsoft produces is just too many to track. And the Patch Tuesday of Microsoft is already famous, or if I can say, it's rather infamous with the amount of new security patches that it has to keep publishing. And almost all we get to see all variants of vulnerabilities, right from critical to the high, medium, all of them. And relatively within the circles of security, we understand that Mac is not that secure, but otherwise you have that notion that probably anything coming out of Apple or Mac is relatively secure, which is highly untrue. And we have constantly seen WebKit related vulnerabilities in Apple. So this is currently the trend of the vulnerabilities that we are seeing, and it is not just limited to a specific vendor or a specific type of exploitation. We are just seeing that it's a myriad of different areas through which people can start exploiting. And as an IT manager, as a security manager, all of this is your responsibility to make sure these are constantly patched. Now, this is not just about good security. This is also now a regulatory and compliance mandate. So if you have to abide by NIST, ISO, any of the other compliances that I've mentioned here, you have to have a process and tooling in place for vulnerability management and patch management. Typically, some of these compliances like RBI, SEBI would mention that you need to have a process in place, but that's mincing words. You cannot have a process without a strong tooling and a solution in place to be able to manage all your vulnerabilities and patches. That's just not possible. Probably they don't want to explicitly call it out, but the thing is, it is impossible for any team, especially companies who are at mid-enterprise stage, to build their own entire tooling for vulnerability assessment, for patching. It's just an unnecessary task, and for that you have to rely on good third-party solutions who can help you accomplish that. And not only these regulatory and compliances mandates, whenever your organization gets an audit for it, you have to show proof of timely remediations out there. How are you doing it? So you not just having a tool is not enough. Your tool should be able to help you support the following. It should be able to help you provide evidences of patching is actually happening. It should help you figure out whether you're really prioritizing based on risk, or it is some random prioritization order that has been decided, because you have to convince the auditor there that you are, because you cannot patch all the vulnerabilities. There has to be a method to the chaos, and you need to have a proper way of prioritizing these vulnerabilities, and then you have to continuously monitor for all of these known issues. So what are some of the best practices for vulnerability management and patch management that we have come across? So let's get to them one by one. So first thing first, there has to be a way for you to continuously track for all the known vulnerabilities in your entire infrastructure. You have to have an automated scanning in place. Now, ideally, this should happen every day, but that's just not feasible, because identifying vulnerabilities is half job done. you have to really go ahead, fix it. So every day would be just that would be a too much activity for you to accomplish for. So what we recommend is performing a weekly or a bi-weekly scans to at least identify all the known critical vulnerabilities is highly recommended, and integrating your vulnerability scanning into your CI/CD pipelines. Now, this could be especially if you're, for your source code, for the applications that you're building, you need to integrate it at CI/CD level. Or if you're, let's say, launching virtual machines on the fly, you have a load balancer and spot machines kind of a concept. So you need to have a way where you are constantly scanning for that golden image continuously, and then, and patching it, and then deploying those virtual machines for your consumption. Second is prioritization. The challenge will not just be identifying the vulnerabilities. The challenge would be that how do you keep a track of all of these known vulnerabilities, and then you figure out what to patch, what not to. It is almost impossible to make sure that all your 100% assets are fully patched. So you have to go with the logic of identifying what are my most critical assets, the mission critical systems, as we call it, and then you need to segregate it. So segregation is very important here to identify which are the assets that you want to focus on. And then triaging vulnerabilities. And the triaging of vulnerabilities should not just be on CVSS. CVSS metric is a popular one that we use across in our industry, but unfortunately, it is not the best metrics when it comes to identifying the exploitability nature of this vulnerability, or to understand what are the business risk of this vulnerability. CVSS has its own different set of parameters. It has become sort of a global standard where people are following it. But as a security manager, me or a CISO, me relying only on CVSS is not a great approach. So your vulnerability triage will have to involve a comprehensive prioritization approach, which should include what could be a potential business impact. Maybe there is a vulnerability with a very high CVSS score, probably of 10. But this vulnerability can never be exploited in your environment. Maybe this vulnerability can only be exploited if your device is internet facing. So what's the point of working and fixing on it, spending hours on fixing it? This is not really relevant in your case. So triaging vulnerabilities is very, very crucial here. Now, after we have identified, first we have identified what are my most critical assets. Then now we are continuously running the scans to identify the vulnerabilities. But after we have identified vulnerabilities, we have to fix them. No point in identifying and keeping all those Excel sheets of known vulnerabilities if we don't fix them. So patching, the process of patching has to have a streamlined workflow here. One thing that we see very occasionally that most organizations miss is they go ahead and directly deploy patches in their target devices. Now, this is where it causes issues, because here you are sort of blindly putting a faith in the vendor that whatever patch that they have released is perfect and it need not be tested in your environment. And that is where we see major outages happen. CrowdStrike, for example, is a great example here, where CrowdStrike was obviously, you have to blame the vendor here for the kind of update that they left. But all the IT admins are here also to be blamed, where they left CrowdStrike to be automatically updated on all the devices that they were installed in. This needs to ideally be controlled from the central console, right? So you need to test any latest update or any latest patches first in any of your staging environment before deploying it. And once you have tested it, that this kind of an update works for my environment, for my golden image. It is then that you should go ahead and proceed for deploying it across the environments. And lastly, this we see is still a very manual process for most IT managers. If you're using Intune, some of them have invested in Intune and similar kind of a product, but still it's a lot of manual work there. Others are manually figuring out when they get a list of CVs and vulnerabilities from their security teams. They're manually figuring out, okay, what are these vulnerabilities? What are their patches? They try to figure out those patches and then go ahead and deploy it. Now, this is just consumption of too much manual hours, and that is not a time well spent. So you need to invest in this automation of your patching. You need to have a workflow in place where you can leverage automation scripting to be able to automate this entire patch management. But you should have a policy in place where automatically you're tracking for missing critical patches in your environment, in your laptops, in your servers, and then you're deploying it based on whatever is your schedule maintenance. And lastly, documentation and reporting. Not the not one of those jobs that most IT managers and security managers enjoy, but your compliance and audit really depends on this. So having a proper record, having a proper track of how frequently is your team performing these vulnerability assessment, how frequently is the team performing these patches, not only helps you to have a very hygienic security process in place, but also helps you defend whenever an audit happens, and you're able to present your cases in a lot better manner. So not just from a compliance perspective, but also from a security hygiene perspective, to have all of these documented and reports in a good format is extremely essential. And then incident response integration. Now this is a phase that nobody enjoys, but it can happen to any company where you may get breached, or where somehow the malicious guy has entered into your environment. In that case, you need to have a proper process in place and an incident response policy in place, where you can coordinate vulnerability management with IR teams, and then establish a process, and not only to fix the issue, but also to let your customers know that something like this has happened. I'll just take a quick detour to give you a walkthrough of how this can be. Some of these things can be accomplished through SecOps solution. Just a quick 5-minute walkthrough, and after that, we'd open for the Q&A. Awesome. So this is like the main dashboard of the platform that you see that we have built. SecOps Solution, as I said, is an agentless patch and vulnerability management platform. So in one solution, it helps you get your vulnerability management done, your configuration audit, as well as your patch management, all of that completed. As some assets are onboarded to your platform, you get a visibility into how many, what kind of different OSs, third-party softwares are installed on your system. Currently, we have about 9 active devices around. Overall infra risk index. Overall, how does your infrastructure look like? What is the rating of your overall infra? We have written detailed white papers on how we go about calculating it. It's available on our website for you to review. Compliance status. So, based on, so every organization should have a compliance SLA for them that they should define. For example, I need to make sure that all my devices are patched for critical patches within 7 days, or critical vulnerabilities within 7 days. So you need to have an SLA for it. And then policy based, where you create these automated automation policies for deploying the patches. These are for your CXOs to view, what is my patching trend? How often is my team deploying the patches? Or vulnerability aging trend. How old are these vulnerabilities sitting in my system? So how long they have been around in my systems? This is to give you an overall view of what your infrastructure looks like. So today, because we are primarily focusing on patch management, let me just, let me first go to the asset section here. So you can come up here, quickly add an asset to a platform. You can do it in an agentless manner, where you can deploy more than 1,000. You can add more than 1,000 devices in less than a day. You can just onboard all of them in one go, which is super fast compared to any other agent-based approach that you may have. So you can quickly go there. If you still prefer to go by an agent-based route, you have an option here as well. So once an asset has been added, you can get all the details here. Okay, what is my asset? What is the how secure is this particular asset? This is our asset severity rating on how we calculate what is the security status of this particular asset. System details, network details, compliance, all of those. So as soon as the asset is added, a quick scan is done where it identifies what are my missing patches here. So you get a list of all the missing patches in your system. So currently I have all of these missing patches here. So, and this will also do a mapping for you from a CV vulnerability perspective. So here you get list of all the, you get details about what this patch is about, size of the patch. Does this patch require internet on your target machine? So this is helpful when you are also dealing with air gap network where there is no internet connectivity. And this will also tell you what all CVs will this particular patch resolve once this patch is deployed. So there is a direct mapping between what patches you deploy and what vulnerabilities you resolve. Similarly, you get details for third-party patches. So I think I have a missing Firefox patch here, and oh my god, so many other vulnerabilities that will get patched once I deploy this particular Firefox patch. Now, if I want, I can just go ahead, click here, deploy the patch, and it will just go ahead in one go. Or I can make this into a automated schedule. So I can go ahead, I can just create a quick policy here where I can select for which devices I want to apply a patch. I can select the package type. Let's say I want to create this patch for Windows only critical patches, for example. So I can just create that. And then some of these patches may require reboot, right? So I don't want that the system goes into reboot when somebody is working or they're in a meeting. That would be business downtime. So we don't want that. So we'll go for a graceful reboot where the target user will have an option whether he wants to delay the reboot of the system or not, just making sure that there is no business downtime because of the patching policy here. And then you can make this a repeatable schedule. So I can say, hey, run this patch every 3 days. So every 3 days, this policy will run. If there is any missing Windows critical patch that is around, it will just detect it and it will deploy on all the devices that I have selected. And as an IT admin, you get full visibility here as to what happened to this patch. So I can get all details here. Once all the patches are deployed, for each stage, did the patch go through or did it not go through? Did it fail? If it went well, you get a remark here. If let's say patch failed at validation stage or integrity check. Integrity check is here is very important, where we check whether the patch that is downloaded was downloaded from the original vendor and is the actual file, and we haven't downloaded by mistake any wrong file here. So it checks for all of those stages and then deploys the patch. Now, let's say for some or the other reason, I want to revert this patch. So I can just go ahead, click here, click on revert, and I can just revert the patch right here from the platform. And for all those reportings that you require, you can get all those detailed reports from here. So let's say I just want a critical unpatched, I want to know all critical unpatched patches in my environment. So I get a list of all of them here. If I want, I can export this data. And if I want, I can just go ahead and also get other details here from the reporting section of the platform. So that's how, so we have a separate reporting section here in the patch management. So here is where you can get all beautiful PDF reports for your CXOs and your managements to get a sense of what are your the summarized versions of those reports. So that's a little gist of what the solution can do. I'll coming back to the presentation bit. So a couple of major differentiators that SecOps solution here provides for the problem of patching and vulnerability management. It's a unified platform that will cover patching, configuration and audit, and vulnerability management in one place. So as opposed to you buying 2 or 3 different solutions for this purposes, you can get everything under one bundle. SecOps solution is the only platform that has a complete agentless orchestration for the entire patch management deployment. Even for devices that are behind DMZ or air-gapped networks, we can deploy the patches in an agentless manner. And we support both. You want to use our cloud version, you can use it. You are a part of regulatory environment, you can go for our on-prem, where we can deploy the solution inside your environment. If you are an MSSP listening to this webinar and you want to offer patching as a service, then we have multi-tenant architectures and role-based access, so you can manage multiple clients from the same dashboard. And if you are a organization or an IT admin where you have too many other sites, too many smaller regions across distributed, even then you can take advantage of our multi-tenancy for deploying the patches and for managing those assets. So that's a little just on what vulnerability management and patch management trends that we are seeing, and how as an IT admin or as a security engineer you can improve on that, and some of the areas where SecOps solution can help.